Yo, what's up? Today I want to talk about retail WoW and the new expansion, The World Within. And I don't really mean to parrot the same bullshit the 1001th time, like, oh, gear needs to matter, the open world needs to be challenging, make raid easier, more approachable, reduce gatekeeping, all that kind of stuff. It's already been said, it's oversaid, I don't want to repeat that in this video. And it's not to say that those things aren't true, right? But at the end of the day, those are just anecdotes that will not change retail WoW at its foundation. And that foundation is, in my opinion, the philosophical root of World of Warcraft. And I want to have this discussion. I want to start a conversation about retail WoW on a philosophical level. Now, the way I look at it, there are two main abstract ideas about retail WoW that I want to just put it out there. And one internal, one external. Let's start by discussing the internal factor. This factor is the identity of the game. So when compared to classic World of Warcraft, retail feels like an entirely different game. And it very much is an entirely different game. They're not even in the same game genre anymore, in my opinion. Classic or vanilla was a true to its core role-playing adventure game. The game was about you embarking on a journey and discover a fantastical world and overcome its challenges. So in many ways, Classic is very similar to games such as Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild, and even Skyrim, except it's multiplayer. And that was the identity of vanilla, and is the identity of Classic WoW. On the other hand, what is the identity of retail? The leveling is no longer meaningful gameplay. Every single quest line is copy-paste slop. Click things here, kill things there, listen to convo, the end. And the stories have turned into characters just incessantly whining at each other while I do all of their chores. Like in the new expansion, right? There was this quest line where I literally had to be the soldier's therapist and clean up the battlefield for them right after I single-handedly killed the big bad dude and all his goons. Like, why do I gotta consult you? What about me, bro? Like, and I don't need that shit. Like, what the fuck is this soy-ass therapy bullshit? And it is pretty clear that retail isn't about the adventure and the exploration anymore. So, what is retail actually? Well, retail is a wannabe competitive game where it functionally nullifies any non-endgame progression and funnel you into this repetition of the same content over and over just to get better at the game. Now, I don't really want to get into rating, Mythic Plus, PvP. I feel like everybody can agree to the sentiment for those content. But fuck me, man. The new delves are the exact same shit. And I wonder what kind of games sound familiar to this. And guess what? Those other games are also great games. And you know why? Because they play into their core identity as competitive games. They just let you play the game. No nonsense, no bullshit. Go show off your skill and compete. Right? In retail, you have this like arbitrary time gates for tiers of content and artificial treadmill grinds for like red, profession, upgrade mask, gears, recipes. Everything. It's too much. You're basically trying to milk your sub for as long as possible. And you know what this also does besides milking your subs? It turns away any newcomers who genuinely want to play the competitive side of the content. It turns away people who genuinely want to compete in those challenging content. Because they don't want to grind for weeks just so they can even begin to play the actual game that they want to play. So TLDR, retail WoW doesn't even have an identity. It is a Frankenstein's monster that tries to be a competitive game but are sewn together with RPG mechanics. And genuinely, and I do mean this genuinely, I believe retail WoW can be an amazing competitive game if Blizzard just truly lean into it. Like draw in those new competitive players by just simply letting them play the real game. Let them be competitive from the get-go. Let them do the hard content from the get-go. Like there is a lot of fun you can have in this game. Some of the class specializations are so fun in this game. Some of the others are dog shit, but some of those are really good. Like I played a fire mage and absolutely loved how Fire Mage plays. And because of that quality gameplay, I genuinely believe that there will be a market if retail just remove all of its barrier to entry and just let people play the end game straight up. Like all of the other nonsense, get rid of it. Now, I know a lot of people will be mad at me for saying this, but retail just isn't old school WoW anymore. Dragging retail back to its roots of an adventure game, it doesn't seem realistic to me. You already have Classic WoW, right? Why don't you just let retail be a different game? You can have two excellent games that's different and you can play them both. And even if you do fear that the retail would turn into this purely competitive game, you can rest assured that they won't do it. Which leads me to the second factor, which is external risk aversion. Now, I don't want to dwell too much on this subject as it could be very speculative. I'm just going to give some examples and make some very simple inductions. Now, before I continue, let me just say that I've been playing retail all the way back since TBC. I skipped Wrath and I played since Kata. And I played the War Within for as much as I could. I leveled 2 characters to 80 and I did delves and dungeon and basically everything else that was available to do. And from what I've seen so far, everything is exactly the same from multiple expansions ago. We're talking about 10 years of gap. Like delves are basically a reskin scenario from Mob. Mythic Plus and World Quests are from Legion. And Mythic Rating are from WoD. It's kind of obvious at this point that they're just simply unwilling to take any level of risks with WoW's core gameplay content. And to be fair, at this point, it is hard for them to take any risks, since they've already been alienating both the competitive player base and the casual player base. And to be even more fair, they did this to themselves by not committing retail's identity to appeal to either side with each expansion after expansion, just same Frankenstein monster of whatever it is. Now, my conjecture, and this is purely conjecture by the way, is that they're at a point where they can't even afford to take risks. And they have been just simply feeding off of players that are just always going to play WoW no matter what. So yeah, as much as I agree with most of the anecdotal complaints out there about retail WoW has problems on a foundational level. And if they don't address it and pick a direction and lean into it and just commit to it, I don't see retail going anywhere. That's the video. Later, suckers.